If you're looking for the best yoga books out there, then this is the perfect video for you. So hi, I'm Alexia and I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga studio owner, and I love books and I love yoga books. I have quite a wide collection of yoga books, and I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while now, over a year actually, but I decided instead of making it where I'm showing you what my favorite yoga books are, I decided to do it slightly differently. So what I did is I posted this very question and a variety of groups that I'm in with yoga practitioners and yoga teachers in order to see what books are recommended, what people think are the best yoga books. So I made a list of the top 10, and this is what I'm going to now be presenting for you. So after I made my list of 10, I had some of the books and I'd read some of them I didn't have, so I had to order them and read them. I've made all of my notes, so let's get started. So number 10 in the best yoga books out there is Your Body, Your Yoga by Bernie Clark. Now this is a book that I'd read quite a lot about and I was really interested in reading it, so I was quite happy that I made it in my list. So this is actually a book that it's an anatomy book, but actually goes a step further. It tries to explain why some people can do certain things while others can't. And it asks the million-dollar question, which is, what stops me? Now the author of this book is Bernie Clark, and he's probably more well known for his Yin Yoga book, which is The Ultimate Guide to Yin Yoga, which is also a fantastic book if you want to learn more about Yin Yoga. And so Bernie Clark, according to his bio, he has a degree in science, which, okay, if you go through this book, it becomes quite obvious. And he's been teaching yoga since the 90s, so yes, he does know his stuff. And so this book is split into two parts. So the first part explores the question, what stops me? So we learn all about tension and compression, we learn all about muscles, ligaments, fascia, tendons, and we understand how these relate to our range of movement. And then in part two, it applies what we know to the lower body. So I really think that this is a must read for all yoga teachers out there. So we're not all unique. Some bodies can do certain things while others can't. Now it's very important as yoga teachers to understand this in order to help guide our students safely into poses and into modifications and varieties of poses which suits their needs. And so if I were to think of maybe a critique for this book, what I would say is that it is so science heavy that it might put some people off. However, you can still get a lot of value from it, even if you are a bit intimidated by all the science in this book. And so if I were to think of a favorite quote from this book, it is, "You are unique. That is nothing new, but the implications of this short statement are vast. You're unique, and therefore what works for you, what suits your body, will be different from what works for other people." And so I think that really sums up this book. Okay, moving on to number 9. So number 9 is quite different. So number 9 is Light on Life by BKS Iyengar. Now this is a very, very different book. So we're moving now on from the physical practice and we're seeing how yoga can be applied into our daily lives. This book explores the obstacles, the internal and external obstacles that we might be facing, and it also then discusses how yoga can actually transform our lives. Now the author, BKS Iyengar, he is considered one of the most influential teachers of modern yoga. So he was a student of Krishnamacharya, and he's written several yoga books, and actually another one has made it into my top 10 list. And also, of course, he is the creator of Iyengar Yoga. So this book is split into 7 chapters, and in each of those chapters Iyengar adds personal stories and he helps explain how yoga can help improve our lives. Now one of the key benefits of this book is that it's great to be able to see the thoughts and experiences of such an influential yoga teacher, and to see his knowledge and to see his experiences and try to understand actually how yoga can help our lives. And if you were to think of a critique for this book, I would say that maybe some people, I know I also felt this, might feel it's a bit repetitive, but just keep that in mind. And my favorite quote from this book is, "This process of relaxing the brain is achieved through asana. We generally think of mind as being in our head. In asana, our consciousness spreads throughout the body, eventually diffusing in every cell, creating a complete awareness. In this way, stressful thought is drained away and our mind focuses on the body, intelligence and awareness as a whole. Beautiful. All right, number 8. So number 8 is a beautiful book, a beautiful read, and it's How Yoga Works. Now, this is a book actually that I read quite a few years ago. I remember I was in India and I was with a group of people and I was asking, I seem to be always asking this question, but I asked, does anyone have a book they would recommend for me to read? And someone pointed out this book and I thought, all right, let me go and buy it. And I think this is a beautiful book to read. So let's see, in this book, it's actually a story. The whole book is a story. But what the author has done is the author has interwoven the Yoga Sutras, so yoga philosophy, into this lovely, lovely little story. And this story actually begins with a young girl. Her name is Yogi. So she travels to India to find her teacher. And with her, she has an ancient and very valuable book. And what happens is that she gets imprisoned into a local jail and she's allowed to be freed only when she can actually prove that she's the rightful owner of this book. And through this journey, we find out all about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So my main praise for this book is that through this story, we get to learn all about yoga philosophy, and how beautiful a way to learn about such a vast and interesting topic. So my main critique is that the story to some might come across as slightly slow. And imagine this is an over 400-page book, so it might take you some time to get through it. And my favorite quote from this book is, "It doesn't matter that we are inside a jail. Everyone is inside a jail. We need to get out of the bigger jail, this entire life, this life that always leads to death and ruin." I mean, how beautiful is that? Okay, moving on to number 7. So in number 7, we have a very interesting book, and it's called Yoga Myths by Judith Hansen Lasater. Now this, you could say, is slightly similar to book number 10, Your Body, Your Yoga. So this is a book which is all about, as the name says, it's all about yoga myths, and it's all about the things that we tend to tell in a yoga class, or as a teacher we tend to say in a yoga class, or as a student we hear in a yoga class, that actually isn't that correct. So the author of this book has been teaching yoga since 1971, and she also has a PhD in psychology. And she's also the author of another very popular book, and I actually have this one with me, and it's called Relax and Renew. So this is a very good restorative yoga book for anyone interested in restorative yoga. So moving on to our Yoga Myths book, the blurb says it all. What you need to learn and unlearn for a safe and healthy yoga practice. So this is split into 11 chapters, and in these 11 chapters we learn all about the common myths, the common things that we might be practicing or teaching in our yoga classes that maybe it's best to adapt. So as a yoga teacher, I will say that this is one of those books where I think, okay, let's see, what else should I be changing in my yoga classes? So it's an easy to read book. It's got many very clear pictures to help you follow through and understand what's going on, and very clear explanations. And if I were to be asked maybe what stood out the most, it's the way she explains why we should be using blankets under our shoulders in shoulder stand. Do you do that? Maybe it's a good idea to start doing it. If I were to think of a critique for this book, it would be that some parts of it would maybe be better presented as a workshop. So for example, she has alternative practice sessions at the end of each chapter, and I think this would maybe be better served as a course, as a workshop, but that's the nature of this book, but it's still very easy to follow through. And my favorite quote from this book is, "Always practice with attention to today's body, not yesterday's." Okay, easier said than done sometimes. And moving to number 6. So number 6 is Autobiography of a Yogi. Now, Has anyone read this book? I read this book several years ago on holiday, and I just remember it took me a while to get into it. Maybe you just have to kind of switch your thinking quite differently, or switch off your science-based thinking, let's say. But I remember just being sucked into this book. So apparently this is one of the top 100 spiritual books of the 20th century. Plus, it was the only book found on Steve Jobs' iPad. Interesting information there. So this book is all about the story of Paramahansa Yogananda, and he tells us all about his childhood, how he encounters saints and sages, how he went through his trainings, and then his 30 years that he ended up living in the US. Now this is a wonderful book to read. You really will notice that you'll inhale it, and it's really nice because it's a different type of book that maybe you might be used to, and so it's really great because it will help broaden your horizons while you're reading this beautiful story of this person's life. Now the main critique would be try to have an open mind rather than thinking, did this really happen? Have an open mind when reading this book. Now my favorite quote is, "Kindness is the light that dissolves all walls between souls, families and nations." Kindness, keep that in mind. So in order to not make this video too long, I've decided to split it into two parts. So we've seen the best books from 10 to number 6. So in the next video, which is here, you're going to see the next 5 books. So when that video is ready, next week, it'll be posted here. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. And if you're kind of curious, then check the link in the description box below where I've got my article where I've listed all of the yoga books. Bye.